Police make more arrests in connection with the JPEX investigation. The chief executive says freebies or special discounts will be offered by various sectors on National Day. And Vice President Zheng and U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken meet in New York. Hello and welcome to TVB News. Police say the number of people arrested in connection with their investigation into the crypto asset platform JPEX has gone up to 8. They include operators of over-the-counter shops and online influencers who allegedly promoted JPEX, despite knowing that it is, as the police have called it, a scam. As of last night, over 1,600 people had reported to police about their dealings with the platform involving nearly $12 billion. Sharon Tang reports.
In a joint media briefing by the Securities and Futures Commission and the police, investigators said JPEX had been making false and misleading statements about its license since it was set up 3 years ago, but it has never applied for a license. The crypto asset platform also actively marketed its products and services through over-the-counter shops and collaborated with online influencers. They would convince investors to transfer their virtual assets to JPEX accounts and hand over the passwords, eventually taking control over the assets.
They use a social media platform and put up advertisements and promote the high return, low risk associated with the products of JPEX, especially the JPC.
JPC is a token launched by JPEX, but unlike other crypto tokens, JPC cannot be used on other crypto platforms. Users are now unable to withdraw their assets. Police consider that all these constitute conspiracy to defraud. On Monday, officers arrested 8 people aged between 22 and 52, including online influencers and over-the-counter shopkeepers, calling them a fraud syndicate with detailed work allocation. Police revealed that in one case, an investor lost $40 million. Officers have frozen some $67 million in assets belonging to the syndicate and vowed to track down the mastermind behind the scam. Sharon Tang, TVB News.
The Securities and Futures Commission said it had found JPEX suspicious last year. This has prompted questions as to why it is only taking action against the crypto platform now. The watchdog explained it did not have power to act earlier as the relevant ordinance had not been amended back then. Sharon Tang again.
The Securities and Futures Commission, or SFC, said it had been monitoring virtual asset trading platforms back in 2017 and found JPEX's operational methods suspicious last year. The SFC said back then the relevant law had not been amended, so all it could do was to put JPEX on a list of suspicious trading platforms. Following an amendment in June, the watchdog has twice asked virtual asset trading platforms to end operations if they do not wish to apply for a license. But that didn't stop JPEX from actively marketing its products. The case was only referred to the police last week. Today, the SFC said it took time to carry out investigations. Currently, the Commission only lists out platforms with a license. Now, could the SFC make public trading platforms that are in the process of applying for a license?
The SFC is of the view that this is not very appropriate because by publishing the list, we may give a false sense of security to the Hong Kong public that these platforms that are applying for a license are actually regulated by the SFC and can comply with the SFC requirements.
Speaking ahead of the weekly Executive Council meeting today, Chief Executive John Lee said the incident will not affect investors' confidence in the city's virtual asset market.
The incident regarding JPEX actually reflects the necessity for proper regulatory system for virtual assets trading. There have been platforms outside Hong Kong and also platforms that existed before our licensing regime. If they want to ensure that they are well protected, then consider investing only on platforms that are regulated. Other platforms that are not regulated by SFC, then there will be a lot of risk.
Still, an expert said there are still grey areas in the current regulatory regime when it comes to cryptocurrency exchange shops or over-the-counter shops. Emil Chan from the Hong Kong Digital Finance Association said that's because crypto coins are not money. He said neither the customs nor the SFC have ways to regulate over-the-counter shops. He urged the authorities to amend laws to plug the loophole. Sharon Tang, TVB News.
National Day is just around the corner on October 1st. Chief Executive John Lee announced the government will work with both the public and business sectors to offer discounts as part of the celebration. The offers will encompass entertainment, including half-price tickets at the cinema, food, drinks, and public transport. Timothy Lee tells us more.
On the 1st of October, the People's Republic of China will celebrate the 74th anniversary of its foundation. Every year, people across the mainland, Hong Kong, and Macau hold festivities commemorating the birth of the country. Besides the return of the fireworks display, Hong Kongers can look forward to a whole series of discount offers. For public transport, residents will be able to take tram and light rail rides for free. Ferry rides traveling between Tsim Sha Tsui and Wan Chai, as well as between North Point and Kwun Tong and Kai Tak, will also be free. Children carrying octopus cards can travel for free on daytime routes for the MTR, Kowloon Motor Bus, and Longwen Bus. Among entertainment facilities, 60 cinemas in Hong Kong will offer their tickets at half price. Over 1,000 restaurants will offer discounts for selected dishes and meal sets. Meanwhile, some indoor and outdoor facilities of the Leisure and Cultural Services Department, including public swimming pools, will be free. The same offer applies to the Space Museum's permanent exhibition, the Science Museum, and the Wetland Park. Chief Executive John Lee said National Day is a joyous time for the whole country and thanked the community for supporting the events by organizing activities and offering discounts. The CE added that more people are going out at night after the launch of the Nighttime Economy campaign and said he believes different sectors will use their creativity to revive the city's famous nightlife scene. Timothy Lee, TVB News.
U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken on Monday met Vice President Zheng on the sidelines of the UN General Assembly ahead of what could be a leader-level summit this autumn. The meeting is fueling speculation that President Xi Jinping and U.S. President Joe Biden may meet at the Asia-Pacific Economic Cooperation Summit in San Francisco around mid-November. Nazvi Karim has more.
It was effectively round 6 of Washington-Beijing efforts to ease tensions since President Xi Jinping met U.S. President Joe Biden in Bali last November. And it could pave the way for another summit between the two leaders in their quest to fulfill the terms of the Bali meeting and keep lines of communication open. On Monday, U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken met Vice President Zheng on the sidelines of the United Nations General Assembly in New York. It is the latest in quick succession high-level talks between the two countries after Blinken's meeting with Xi over the summer and further visit to China by U.S. Commerce Secretary Gina Raimondo, Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen, and Biden's climate envoy John Kerry. Over the weekend, Wang Yi, head of the Foreign Ministry and the Communist Party's Foreign Affairs Office, met White House National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan in Malta. The U.S. State Department described the talks as a candid and constructive discussion, and topics included the Russia-Ukraine war, North Korea, and the Taiwan Strait.
I think it's a good thing that we have this opportunity to build on the recent high-level engagements that our countries have had, to make sure that we're maintaining open communications and to demonstrate that we are responsibly managing the relationship between our two countries. From the perspective of the United States, face-to-face diplomacy is the best way to deal with areas where we disagree, and also the best way to explore areas of potential cooperation between us.
Han admitted that U.S.-China relations had difficulties and challenges, but added that the world needs stable and healthy relations. The talks possibly sets up another Biden-Xi meeting, this time at November's Asia-Pacific Economic Cooperation, or APEC Summit in San Francisco. Biden was hoping to meet the Chinese leader at this month's Group of 20 summit in India, but Xi decided against traveling to New Delhi. Xi, meanwhile, in a letter to 2 veteran American Flying Tiger pilots who fought for China in the Second World War, said the two nations should and must achieve peaceful coexistence. Nazvi Karim, TVB News.
Russian President Vladimir Putin is due to visit Beijing in October. Interfax news agency quoted the country's Security Council Secretary Nikolai Patrushev as saying, he said it's an opportunity for Russia and China to deepen cooperation in the face of the West's attempt to contain them both. Wang Yi, head of the Foreign Ministry and the Communist Party's Foreign Affairs Office, met his Russian counterpart, Sergei Lavrov, in Moscow on Monday, paving the way for Putin's visit. Wang said China and Russia, as permanent members of the UN Security Council, along with other major countries, are responsible for maintaining global stability and development. He said China and Russia uphold independent foreign policies and that they are not influenced nor manipulated by any third party. His remarks come as foreign ministers of the Group of 7 countries meeting during the UN General Assembly called on China to press Russia to halt its war against Ukraine. China has taken a neutral stance on Ukraine, even highlighting Russia's security concerns about NATO expansion efforts. Lavrov said China's position is conducive to addressing the root causes of the conflict. Welcome back. In Libya, hundreds of protesters gathered outside the Al-Shabana Mosque in central Derna Monday in a show of anger against the authorities. Protesters demanded accountability 1 week after floods killed thousands of the city's residents and destroyed entire neighborhoods. This, as officials warned that a disease outbreak following the floods could create a second devastating crisis. Tracy Furness has more.
Hundreds of Libyan protesters took aim at officials outside a central mosque in Derna Monday, calling on them to expedite their investigation into the floods. The UN said nearly 4,000 people had died in the disaster, revising down a previous estimate of 11,000. But thousands of people remain missing. This Derna resident read out a list of demands. We call for holding all officials accountable and arresting them. Those who were in charge of the city, although they were not qualified. Those who were appointed despite being rejected by the city's residents, he said. Later in the evening, protesters set fire to the house of the man who was Derna's mayor at the time of the flood, Abdulmanam Al-Gaithi. Meanwhile, the search continues for the thousands still unaccounted for after 2 dams collapsed when Storm Daniel hit the region. This, as the United Nations humanitarian coordinator for Libya says, a disease outbreak could create a second crisis in the devastated area, as well as unexploded landmines that floodwaters have shifted.
Given the nature and scope of this tragedy, we're very concerned about the health impact and the potential spread of waterborne diseases as water sources and sewer networks have been severely damaged. We're also concerned that floodwaters have shifted landmines and unexploded remnants of war, leaving displaced people at risk of injury and death.
Tracy Furness, TVB News.
India has given a Canadian diplomat 5 days' notice to leave the country, just hours after Ottawa expelled India's top intelligence agent from its shores. Canada has accused India of having a role in the murder of a Sikh separatist leader in British Columbia in June. India denies the accusation. Tracy Furness reports.
Canada expelled a top Indian diplomat as it investigates what Prime Minister Justin Trudeau called credible allegations that the Indian government is linked to the assassination in Canada of Hardeep Singh Nijjar, an advocate of Sikh independence from India. He was gunned down on June 18th outside a Sikh cultural centre in Surrey, British Columbia.
Over the past number of weeks, Canadian security agencies have been actively pursuing credible allegations of a potential link between agents of the government of India and the killing of a Canadian citizen, Hardeep Singh Nijjar. I continue to urge the government of India to cooperate with Canada to get to the bottom of this matter.
Trudeau told the Canadian Parliament that he brought up Najar's slaying with Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi at the G20 meeting in New Delhi last week. India's Foreign Ministry called the accusation absurd and motivated. And just hours after Canada expelled India's top intelligence agent from the country, India expelled the Canadian High Commissioner in New Delhi, Cameron Mackay, who was seen entering and leaving India's Foreign Ministry on Tuesday without giving a comment. The development was the latest in an escalating row between the two nations. India has repeatedly accused Canada of supporting Sikh independence, also known as the Khalistan movement, which is banned in India but has support in countries like Canada and the UK. Canada has a Sikh population of more than 770,000, about 2% of its total population. Canadian Foreign Minister Melanie Joy said Prime Minister Justin Trudeau will raise the matter with US President Joe Biden and UK Prime Minister Rishi Sunak. Tracy Furness, TVB News.
The central government has appointed Benson Kwok as the new Director of Immigration, replacing Au Ka-wing. Kwok, who is a former deputy director, said he will do his utmost to protect the nation's borders and ensure national security.
I shall devote wholeheartedly to lead the department to take up the challenges ahead. The Immigration Department will continue to bear our constitutional responsibility of safeguarding national security, guarding the southern gate of the country, and ensuring the stable development of Hong Kong.
An industrial building in Yaotong will become the first of its kind to be used to provide transitional housing. Conversion work on the 6-story building is expected to commence in the first quarter next year. It will provide 166 housing units for about 560 people, with the monthly rent ranging from $2,000 to $5,000. The project is operated by social enterprise Lightbee, which provides light homes for the needy. Each unit will have a bathroom and cooking space. That's the news. Thanks for watching. Bye for now.